In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the perfect latkes. Now here we have, normally when you make latkes, you kind of shred them up and see how they oxidize really quickly and they turn black. Well, we have a way of preventing that, and that's by adding lemon juice. Lemon juice doesn't make it taste any different. It still tastes good and it adds sort of this bright citrus flavor, but it stops the potatoes from turning black. So the first step is to get your potatoes, get a lemon, and shred the potatoes. Now, the kind of potatoes you want are russet potatoes. They're just the classic French fry potatoes. You don't really want sweet potatoes or Yukon Gold or anything like that, because russet potatoes are the only ones that really get crispy. All right, let me get my shredder now. Okay, so the next step is to shred your potatoes. You can see this is a standard kitchen grade shredder. You don't want to use the small holes. You want to use the large holes. Nice big shreds. And then right away, I'll start introducing the lemon. The lemon will keep the potato shreds looking nice and fresh and prevent them from turning black, because they really turn black pretty quickly and they get really dark. Makes the latkes kind of look unappetizing, even though they taste good. This is the hard part. Be careful not to cut your fingers. And this is something in thousands, millennia of Jewish existence, no one has ever solved this. You always end up with a little potato nub and no one knows what to do with it. You have to just throw it away. That's it. It's terrible, but you can compost it. Okay, so now you've got a bunch of shredded potatoes. Now at this point, you might be tempted to add onions and garlic, and that's definitely the flavor that you want in latkes, but you never want to add onions before you cook them, because onions cook at a much different rate than potatoes do. So the onions get cooked right away and they turn into charcoal by the time the potatoes are still raw and they're not cooked, right? So forgo the onions, don't put them in. You can add onion powder or garlic powder after the fact to give them that nice oniony, garlicky flavor. But you never want to cook them with onions, because the onions will turn into little bits of charcoal and they won't it won't taste good. The same with apples, because we eat latkes with applesauce. You might be tempted to put apples in, but apples are much better. If you do want to put apples on your latkes afterwards, they're much better if you just slice them raw, and Granny Smith tastes really good. So that's rule number one. You want that onion flavor, but you have to use something like onion powder, garlic powder after the latkes are done. And then rule number two, if you want crispy latkes, you got to watch out for liquid in the potatoes. So what I do is I kind of press the potatoes against the bowl like this, but you can take them out and press them with paper towels too, and you'll see this puddle of liquid form down at the bottom. I've already done this a couple times, so yeah. This is another good time to add a little more lemon. I promise they will not taste lemony, like you don't even notice. All right, so yeah, just drench them in lemon. It just makes sure that they'll stay, the potatoes won't turn that dark color. Press out all the excess potato liquid. The potatoes will stay on the side of the bowl, and then you have this liquid and you just pour it out in the sink, because if that liquid stays in the potatoes, the latkes will stay raw basically, and also they won't get crunchy. So I'm going to just go pour this out. Okay, so here we have the potatoes. I have garlic powder and salt, which I add afterwards to get that great kind of savory flavor that I want for my latkes. I put the burner on super low, sort of like on my setting it's like 4, and the reason for that is the latkes, I want them to cook slowly and cook all the way through. You might think, if you're familiar with deep frying, you might want to cook them on high, but that's not the case. The latkes have this thing of getting really crispy on the outside, and then in the middle they're still raw, and that's kind of terrible. So, for my recipe now, here in your traditional recipe, you probably have something like a flour-based batter that you would add. And we're making them gluten-free, so we're not using flour anyway. So all that I add to this is just a couple of eggs, or maybe 1 egg, just to sort of give them coherence and keep them together. We don't like flour very much in our family, so what we're making is really minimal. It's not really that much different than hash browns, or it's like a really good breakfast food. All right, so just a couple of eggs, that'll give them coherence, and have a spatula. I fold in the eggs. But what I really care about is that the color of the potatoes. When they're gray or black, it's just not appetizing. Yeah, so that's it. I don't salt them at this point. I don't try to get any other onion flavor or anything like that. I just want them to be crispy, and then I will flavor them afterwards. Now for the pan itself, I do a mixture of avocado oil or extra virgin olive oil, and you do use a lot of oil. And then the really important part of the flavor is that the potatoes absorb the butter. So I combine olive oil with butter, and I'll just let that melt. But I'm tempted to speed up the process by turning it to high, but that means that everything will be burned. They won't come out right. So I just kind of go to, I guess it's medium-low at the most. It's a lot of butter, but it's okay. We're making a lot of latkes. Just look at that. It looks like a nebula or a star exploding in space. Wow. The cosmic beauty of butter melting in a pan. It's really important to use cast iron because it heats evenly. Definitely don't use steel or aluminum pans for this. This is the only way to cook on low is with a nice cast iron pan, because the whole surface will heat evenly. If you have an aluminum pan, just the middle gets hot, and then everything in the pan doesn't heat well, and nothing gets cooked. Now you can just kind of shape them with your hands. It's hard. Like if you scoop them in with a spatula, they can fall apart pretty easily. So. Make them pretty small. Once the butter is melted, it's about time for them to start cooking. And cooking them slowly, this is kind of like you're home for the weekend and all you want to do is stay home and cook latkes. They really come out so much better if you cook them slowly, though. I mean, you can get good results if you turn it up to medium-high, but I think the best way to do it is just like this on medium-low, and just let them cook for a really long time. Usually it takes me each round like 15 to 20 minutes even, but they'll cook all the way through. The center of the potatoes will be cooked, the outside will be crispy, it won't be too crispy, and that's why they're perfect. Okay, so while those are cooking, we're going to make a topping. Now, as we know, you eat latkes with applesauce, so we're just going to make really thin slices of apples with the mandolin to put right over the latke and then have the applesauce next. Now, the best apple to do this with is Granny Smith because the latkes are all savory and garlicky, and then the Granny Smith apple slices are bitter, and kind of sour. And then on top of that, you have the apple sauce, which is really sweet and cinnamony. But they didn't have Granny Smith at the store, so I just have these apples. I think they're Fuji's. Now the mandolin is basically the sharpest tool in your kitchen, so never be a cowboy and use it without the handle, or you will cut yourself. So here's the little cover for the mandolin. It just goes right here. You can dial the thickness, and we kind of want this as thin as possible. That'll make it look super fancy. So just a little decorative element right on top of the latke. All right, so we have it super thin. We just put the cover on the mandolin. This is the perfect thing to serve. Like, you have the latke here, then you have, this is a little decorative element, then you have sour cream or creme fraiche, and then you have the applesauce, right? So now apples, if you ever have sliced up apples, it has the same thing. Same thing happens as potatoes, where they turn brown. So we're going to use the lemon once again to prevent oxidization, and also make up for the fact that these aren't Granny Smiths, so they'll be a little bit more sour, which will give another layer of taste. So we'll have the savory latke, then we'll have these lemon slices with the sour lemon juice, and then on top of it we'll have the really fatty creme fraiche. Creme fraiche is what I'm using. And then on top of that, we'll have the really sweet applesauce. So it'll be this combination of sweet and savory that kind of reminds you of, when you're at McDonald's and you dip your French fries and they're all salty into your milkshake and it's all sweet. So that's part of what makes it the perfect latke, is all of those different layers of flavor and texture. So when you cook really slowly like this, you have plenty of time, and you can see the edges just becoming crisp. The rest of the latke is still white or golden colored. It's not, you don't see any of that gray or dark color. Oh, look at that, it's perfect. Oh my gosh. You know right when to flip them. If you think that you're a bad cook, just turn the temperature down to low and do your same recipe, and you're probably fine. Biggest cooking mistake you can do is use temperature that's too high. All right, oh, look at those are perfect. Now they're basically hash browns, if you're not adding flour and pancake mix, but that's okay. And that's kind of the way cooked potato cakes are the best. Okay, so now these are done. Oh, they look perfect. Look at that. And that's side by side with one where, it's cooked in the same way, but we didn't use lemon juice. So you can see the potatoes turned almost black. They turned purple. They taste the same. Both of these will taste the same, but this is just so unappealing to look at. Okay, so now we're going to put some of those nice savory spices. This is just garlic powder, really lightly, and salt, of course. And that's after the fact. If you cook them with garlic powder or with onions or anything like that, that stuff will just burn. So now we have this really savory little platform. Oh, look at that. Sculptural. Okay. Now finally, this is kind of the same principle as pizza or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like having something really crunchy, like a really crunchy bread, and then having something sweet over it, and then having something fatty to go with it. Right, so we're using not sour cream but creme fraiche, which is like kind of the same idea as sour cream, but even richer. All right, that is just about perfect. And then the final layer of taste is applesauce. And applesauce is just really sweet.
Yum, delicious.